They say the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Mine was paved with a flyer, women supporting women, that I encouraged my wife to explore. I thought I was being a supportive husband, helping Monica find her community after our move. Instead, I was signing the death warrant for our marriage. In just 3 months, that group transformed my dedicated partner into an entitled stranger who declared she would no longer fulfill any wifely duties while living entirely on my dime. Little did she know that when she announced her liberation from our partnership, she also freed me to deliver the most brutal lesson in consequences she would ever learn. 6 years ago, Monica and I made what we thought was a sensible arrangement. We weren't trying to recreate some 1950s fantasy. We were being practical. I had my civil engineering career on a promising trajectory, and she would manage our home life while we built toward our future together. The plan was to start a family eventually, but first, we needed stability. Those early years were genuinely good. I'd come home from 10-hour workdays to find Monica had transformed our modest 3-bedroom into a place that felt like somewhere you'd want to be. She had a knack for organization, for creating spaces that felt both functional and warm. I never once resented the long hours at the office because I knew I was coming home to something worth working for. Our evenings had a comfortable rhythm. Dinner together at the kitchen island, talking about our days. She'd tell me about the new storage system she'd implemented in the garage, or the recipe she'd perfected. I'd share stories about structural calculations or difficult clients. We'd plan vacations we'd take someday, renovations we'd do eventually, children we'd raise when the time was right. There was balance between us, different responsibilities but equal investment. People might judge our arrangement, call it old-fashioned. But Monica had autonomy. She had her own bank account with access to our funds. She made decisions about the household. We were equals with different roles. More importantly, she never once expressed unhappiness with our setup. Not once in 6 years did she say, "David, I want something different." I would have listened if she had. 3 months ago, Monica found a flyer at the community center. "Women supporting women," it read. "Find your voice. Reclaim your power." She showed it to me over dinner, eyes bright with interest. "What do you think?" she asked, tapping the paper eagerly. "It's Tuesday and Thursday evenings." "Sounds great," I responded, genuinely meaning it. Monica's social circle had shrunk since we moved for my job. I thought she needed connections beyond our marriage. "You should definitely go." She went to that first meeting and came home transformed. I'd never seen her so animated, so energized. She talked non-stop about the women she'd met. Jessica, who ran a successful online business. Amber, who'd recently left her husband. Diane, the group's founder, who had written a self-published book called Unshackled: Breaking Free from Patriarchal Expectations. I remember feeling happy for her that night. I remember thinking, this is good for her. I remember watching her face as she described the meeting and feeling a flutter of pride that she was finding something that excited her. I had no idea that those Tuesday and Thursday meetings would dismantle everything we'd built. If I'd known what they were teaching her, what they were turning her into, I would have burned that community center to the ground. The change was gradual, like watching someone become addicted to a substance. You notice the small shifts first, things you can explain away. Then one day you look at them and realize you're seeing a different person entirely. It started with her vocabulary. New words began slipping into our everyday conversations. Patriarchy appeared first. Then emotional labor. Systemic oppression followed shortly after. "Did you know," she said one evening, spooning pasta onto her plate, "that women do an average of 4 more hours of unpaid domestic work per day than men? It's fascinating how society conditions us to accept our own exploitation." I engaged at first, genuinely interested in her perspective. I asked questions. I listened to her answers. I even read some of the articles she forwarded me from feminist websites. But something felt off about these conversations. They weren't exchanges. They were recitations. Monica wasn't sharing thoughts she'd developed. She was repeating scripts she'd been given. Her phone became an appendage, constant notifications, constant scrolling. The private Facebook group consumed her. She'd show me memes about breaking free and knowing your worth. She'd read me posts from women celebrating leaving marriages that no longer served them. She started comparing our relationship unfavorably to some feminist utopia where men and women contributed exactly equally in all spheres simultaneously. I noticed she'd stopped asking about my day, stopped caring about the stress I was under at work. When I mentioned the pressure of an upcoming project deadline, she suggested I was seeking emotional labor from her, as though being interested in your spouse's life was some form of exploitation. The group meetings expanded beyond Tuesdays and Thursdays, coffee with Jessica on Saturdays, video calls with Amber late into the night, brunches with the whole group on Sundays. These women, whom she'd known for mere weeks, became her entire world. Diane says, and Jessica thinks, prefaced every opinion she expressed. I suppressed my growing unease. This was a phase, I told myself. She's exploring new ideas, finding herself. This is healthy. But the nagging feeling persisted. These weren't just new interests. They were replacing her entire personality. One evening, she came home particularly agitated after a meeting. She paced our living room, ranting about another member's husband. "He controls all the finances," she fumed, gesturing wildly with her hands. "He makes her ask permission for every purchase. It's financial abuse, pure and simple." "Wait," I said cautiously. "Isn't this Melissa you're talking about? The one who doesn't work?" "So what?" Monica snapped, whirling to face me. "So if she doesn't earn any money, isn't it reasonable that her husband would manage their finances? How is that abuse?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Monica's expression hardened. "Money isn't everything, David. Women contribute in ways that can't be measured in paychecks," she declared, as if reciting from a manifesto. Her tone sent a chill through me. The woman speaking those words wasn't my wife. She was a ventriloquist dummy with someone else's hand controlling what came out of her mouth. I should have seen it coming. The signs were all there. But when someone you love is drowning in ideology, you don't recognize it as drowning. You think they're learning to swim. I was wrong. The day everything changed, I came home later than usual. A site inspection that should have taken 2 hours stretched to 6 when we discovered structural issues that needed immediate attention. I'd called Monica to let her know, but she hadn't answered. I tried not to read into that. By the time I walked through our front door, my shoulders ached from tension, my eyes burned from staring at blueprints, and my stomach growled from skipping lunch. All I wanted was to sink into our couch with a beer, maybe order takeout, and decompress with my wife. Instead, I found Monica sitting at our kitchen table, laptop open, arms crossed over her chest. Her expression was one I'd never seen before, a combination of righteousness and barely contained excitement, like someone about to deliver news they've rehearsed for days. "We need to talk," she announced, her chin lifting slightly. I set down my bag, alert now to the tension in the room. "What's going on?" I asked warily. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," she said, her voice oddly formal. "About our marriage. About my role in it." She closed her laptop deliberately. "I'm done cooking for you. I'm done cleaning up after you. I'm done doing your laundry. From now on, I'll be handling only my own needs." I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. "What?" I questioned, disbelief evident in my voice. "I'm not your maid, David," she stated, the rehearsed quality of her words unmistakable now. "I've had a feminist awakening. I've realized I've been performing unpaid domestic labor while you get to have a career and identity outside this house." The absurdity of the statement, after 6 years of our agreed-upon arrangement, ignited my temper. "Are you serious right now?" "We had an agreement, Monica. You manage the house, I earn the money," I reminded her, struggling to keep my voice level. Money isn't everything, she replied, parroting the exact phrase she'd used about Melissa's husband. You think because you pay the bills you own me? I think because I pay the bills, you don't have to work. My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. I think because I support us completely financially, the least you could do is handle your end of things. My end of things? Her voice dripped with indignation. You mean the cooking and cleaning? The mental load of managing the household? The emotional labor of keeping our social calendar? That's not my end. That's unpaid domestic servitude that society has conditioned women to accept. Society didn't condition you to accept anything, I shot back. We had a conversation 6 years ago. We made this decision together. You were happy with it until those women got in your head. Those women opened my eyes, she countered, chin lifting. Now I understand my worth. Your worth? The word struck me as particularly ironic. What exactly do you contribute, Monica, if not household management? What is your worth to this partnership? I challenged. Her answer stunned me in its audacity. My presence, my companionship, my emotional labor, she declared, as if stating the obvious. I laughed, unable to help myself. Your presence? That's your contribution? Meanwhile, I work 50 hours a week to pay for this house, the car you drive, the food you eat, the clothes you wear, the vacations we take, the health insurance that covers you. But sure, your presence is an equal contribution. You're proving my point, she said coldly. You think money makes you superior. I think money pays the mortgage, I snapped. I think money keeps the lights on. I think money allows you the luxury of spending your days however you want while I'm working my ass off. And now you're telling me you won't even handle the basic household tasks we agreed you'd manage? That's right, she confirmed with a small, satisfied smile, like she'd won something. From now on, we each take care of our own needs. Equality. I stared at her, something crystallizing in my mind. This wasn't a phase. This wasn't a rough patch. This was my wife unilaterally ending our partnership while expecting to continue enjoying all its benefits. She wasn't my partner anymore. She was a parasite with good PR. Fine, I said finally, my voice quiet. If that's how you want it. She seemed surprised by my calm acceptance, perhaps expecting me to beg or argue further. Instead, I walked past her to the refrigerator, grabbed a beer, and went upstairs to shower. As hot water washed away the day's tension, my mind turned cold and calculating. If Monica wanted to live as though we weren't married, I'd give her exactly what she was asking for. But on my terms, not hers. She thought she'd backed me into a corner, that I'd either capitulate or beg her to reconsider. She had no idea she'd just handed me permission to walk away guilt-free, and I was going to make sure she never saw it coming. The next morning, I told Monica I wasn't feeling well and would be working from home. The moment she left for her coffee date with Jessica, I made my first call. Richard Paulson's office was exactly what I needed. Discreet, experienced, and utterly unsentimental about marriage. The attorney himself was a gray-haired man with reading glasses perched on a hawk-like nose. He listened without interrupting as I explained the situation. Let me make sure I understand correctly, he said when I finished. Your wife has voluntarily abandoned her household duties but expects to continue enjoying the financial benefits of marriage. There are no children involved. The house is in your name only. And you signed a prenuptial agreement? That's correct, I confirmed. Monica never worked during our marriage by mutual agreement, but now she's refusing to contribute in any way. He nodded, making notes. And you want a divorce, he stated matter-of-factly. I want options, I replied carefully. Mr. Mitchell, in my 30 years of practice, I've seen this situation more times than you'd think. The details vary, but the essence is the same. One partner decides to change the terms unilaterally and is shocked when the other partner objects. He leaned forward. Your case is straightforward. No children means no custody battle. House in your name means no property dispute. Prenup means limited financial exposure. We could have this wrapped up in 60 days if uncontested. I authorized him to prepare the paperwork but requested he hold off on having Monica served. I wanted everything perfect, airtight, with no possibility of her mounting a defense. More importantly, I wanted her to experience exactly what she'd asked for, a marriage in name only. For the next 2 months, Monica and I lived like hostile roommates. She cooked single portions, did laundry for one, cleaned only her spaces. I matched her exactly, ordering takeout, using a laundromat down the street for my clothes, keeping my areas immaculate while ignoring shared spaces. Our house divided itself geographically. Her bathroom, my bathroom. Her side of the closet, my side. The kitchen became contested territory where we prepared separate meals at separate times. We passed each other like ghosts, maintaining superficial politeness that made the distance between us even more apparent. I watched Monica's reactions evolve. The first week, she was smug, triumphant. She spent hours on her phone, no doubt telling her support group how she'd set boundaries and refused to be exploited. But as weeks passed, I noticed the smugness fading. She began to realize I was genuinely fine without her. I wasn't begging her to reconsider. I wasn't arguing. I wasn't even seeming bothered. I was simply living my life, working, going to the gym, catching up with friends I'd neglected. Her power play had failed to produce the reaction she'd expected. By week 6, Monica started testing the waters. She'd cook extra and casually offer, "I made too much pasta. You can have some if you want." "No thanks," I'd reply coolly. "I already ordered." Or she'd suggest watching something together. "That show you like has a new season." "I have plans tonight," I'd answer, whether I did or not. Or she'd try initiating conversation. "How was work today?" "Fine," I'd respond, offering nothing more. Each small rejection was civil, reasonable, and utterly crushing to her growing realization that she might have miscalculated. I could see the confusion in her eyes, the dawning awareness that she'd backed herself into a corner. She'd expected me to fight for her contribution, to show her how much I needed her. Instead, I was demonstrating just how unnecessary she had become. I observed all of this with cold satisfaction. She thought she had leverage. She thought I needed her more than she needed me. Every day that passed proved she was wrong. And with each passing day, my resolve strengthened. This marriage was over. She just didn't know it yet. Exactly 62 days after my initial consultation with Paulson, the divorce papers were finalized and ready to be served. I picked up the envelope from his office on my way home from work, feeling its weight in my hands. Inside was the end of my marriage, the consequences of Monica's choices, and the beginning of my freedom. I'd spent 2 months watching her realize she'd made a mistake, but she still thought there was time to fix it. She still thought I'd forgive her. She had no idea that the moment she declared she wouldn't be my wife, I'd already decided she wouldn't be anything at all. When I arrived home that evening, Monica was in the living room, scrolling through her phone as usual. Probably in a group chat with her feminist collective, sharing inspirational quotes about female empowerment while contributing nothing of value to the world. She glanced up as I entered, and I noticed a slight softening in her expression. She'd been trying to repair things for weeks now, making small overtures I'd systematically rebuffed. "Hi," she said, putting her phone down. "How was your day?" I crossed the room and held out the manila envelope. "Monica," I stated firmly. She took it, confusion crossing her face. "What's this?" she asked, her brow furrowing. "Open it," I instructed evenly. She pulled out the papers, her eyes scanning the first page. I watched the transformation. Confusion to shock to panic, each emotion washing over her features in rapid succession, her face drained of color. "What is this?" Her voice went high and frantic. "Divorce papers? You can't be serious. she exclaimed, looking up at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. I'm completely serious, I replied, my tone remaining even, controlled. The papers are filed. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. David! She stood, papers clutched in her shaking hands. This is crazy! You can't just divorce me without even talking about it, she protested desperately. We talked about it 2 months ago, I said calmly. You made your position clear. You declared you wouldn't be my wife anymore, just someone who happens to live in my house. I've simply taken you at your word. That's not what I meant. Tears began forming in her eyes. I was setting boundaries. I was standing up for myself, she insisted, her voice breaking. No, you were ending our partnership. And now I'm making it official, I corrected her coldly. I'll change. The desperation in her voice would have moved me once. Now it meant nothing. I'll go back to the way things were. I'll leave the group. Please, David, we can fix this, she begged. It's too late, I said. You had 2 months to change your mind, Monica. 2 months when you watched me adapt perfectly well to your new rules. Did you think I didn't notice you realizing your mistake? Did you think I couldn't see you trying to walk it back without losing face? But we love each other. She stepped toward me, reaching out. I stepped back, maintaining distance. No, we don't, I said, the simple truth of it striking even me with its finality. You don't love me, Monica. You love what I provide. The moment your Facebook friends told you that you deserved more, you abandoned our agreement without hesitation. That's not love. Her face crumpled. Why are you doing this? She whispered, tears now flowing freely. What exactly am I divorcing? I asked, the question that had crystallized in my mind months ago finally spoken aloud. You're not my wife anymore. You're just a stranger who lives in my house. You don't cook for me. You don't clean. You don't do laundry. You don't support my career. You contribute nothing financially. You offer no emotional support. Tell me, Monica, what possible reason do I have to stay married to you? She had no answer. The realization seemed to hit her fully then. She had nothing to offer. She'd dismantled her only contribution to our partnership and expected that I would simply accept the new arrangement indefinitely. I'll get a job, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'll do anything. Please don't do this. The papers are filed, I repeated firmly. This is happening. You need to pack and leave. I glanced at the phone she'd abandoned on the couch. Maybe call your feminist friends. I'm sure they'll take you in, since they care so much about supporting women. Monica began to sob in earnest, her body folding in on itself as she sank back onto the couch. I watched her dispassionately, feeling nothing but a cold satisfaction. The power dynamic had completely reversed. 2 months ago, she thought she held all the cards. Now she understood she had been playing a game she couldn't possibly win. I turned and walked upstairs to what had become my bedroom, closing the door behind me. Through the floor, I could hear her crying, the sound of someone who had just realized they'd destroyed something irreplaceable through their own hubris. She tried everything over the next week: tears, anger, manipulation, flying monkeys. None of it mattered. I'd already mourned this marriage during those 2 months of silence. By the time she realized what she'd lost, I was already free. The week after I served Monica, the papers unfolded like a psychological thriller, each day bringing a new desperate tactic as she tried to undo what she'd done. Day 1. She camped outside my bedroom door, alternating between sobbing and pleading until 3 a.m. I put in earplugs and slept soundly. Day 2. She tried anger, accusing me of cruelty, of blindsiding her, of punishing her for finding her voice. I responded with dispassionate logic. You ended our partnership. I'm simply making it official. Day 3. She threatened to contest the divorce, to fight me in court, to take half of everything. I reminded her that she couldn't afford an attorney, that the house was in my name only, and that our prenup was ironclad. Her threats dissolved into more tears. Day 4. The most pathetic attempt. She wore lingerie to breakfast, tried to seduce me. I looked through her as though she were invisible and left for work early. Then came the flying monkeys. She called everyone we knew, searching for allies to pressure me into reconsidering. First, my mother. "David, Monica called me hysterical. What's going on?" my mother asked when she called. I explained the situation calmly, including Monica's declaration that she would no longer contribute anything to our household. "And she expected you to keep supporting her financially?" my mother asked, incredulous. "Exactly," I confirmed. "Well," she said after a pause, "she made her bed." Then my friends. Each conversation followed the same pattern. "Monica called," they would begin hesitantly. "I know," I would acknowledge. "What should I tell her?" they would ask, clearly uncomfortable. "Whatever you want." "I've made my decision," I would answer firmly. Without exception, they respected my boundaries. Some had watched Monica's transformation with increasing concern. Others had been on the receiving end of her feminist lectures. None were surprised by the outcome. Most devastating for Monica were her own parents. They called me directly, wanting my side of the story. I gave them the unvarnished truth. "We're so sorry, David," her father said, his voice heavy with disappointment. "We warned her about that group. We watched our daughter become someone we didn't recognize." "She can come live with us," her mother added, "but we've told her she needs to get her life together. We're not supporting her indefinitely." The final humiliation came when Monica turned to her sisters in Women Supporting Women. She asked to stay with Jessica, the entrepreneurial one, after leaving my house. This arrangement lasted exactly 2 weeks. As I learned later through mutual acquaintances, Jessica also expected Monica to contribute. Rent, shared grocery costs, household chores. Monica, unemployed and unskilled, couldn't pay her share and bristled at being asked to handle domestic tasks. The irony was completely lost on her. When Jessica spread the word about Monica's entitlement, other offers of temporary housing mysteriously evaporated. With nowhere else to go, Monica moved back to her parents' home in Ohio. I imagined her humiliation. A 32-year-old woman moving back into her childhood bedroom, unemployed, divorced, with nothing to show for 6 years of marriage except a hard lesson in consequences. Meanwhile, my life continued smoothly. I settled into a new routine: work, gym, dinner with friends I'd neglected during the marriage's final months. I reclaimed spaces in my home that had been compromised during our Cold War. I slept diagonally across my king-sized bed. I left dishes in the sink when I felt like it. I existed according to my own rhythms, without the constant tension of walking on eggshells around an ideologue. The peace was indescribable. I hadn't realized how much her presence had weighed on me until it was gone. The house felt lighter, airier, as though her departure had literally cleared the air. The divorce finalized 90 days after I filed. Clean, simple, no contest. She got nothing. No alimony, no assets, no second chances. The prenup she'd signed when she was a different person saved me from years of litigation. Sometimes, the best revenge is just letting someone experience the natural consequences of their choices. 6 months have passed since the divorce was finalized, and my life has found its rhythm again. Work has been rewarding. I received a promotion to senior project manager last month, overseeing development of a new corporate campus downtown. The house is peaceful, organized according to my preferences, without the constant background radiation of resentment that had characterized those final months with Monica. I've rediscovered parts of myself that had been submerged during the marriage. My interest in woodworking, weekend hiking trips, reading without interruption, small pleasures that accumulate into a life of quiet satisfaction. I've been seeing someone new for about 2 months, Emma, a project manager I met through colleagues. She has her own career, her own apartment, her own fully formed identity that doesn't depend on internet validation or group approval. Our relationship feels balanced, each of us bringing something to the table, each of us respecting what the other contributes. We're taking things slowly, both of us cautious after previous disappointments, but the potential feels genuine. Through mutual connections, I've heard what happened to Monica and her group. Women supporting women disbanded after 3 members, including Monica, got divorced in similar circumstances. Turns out declaring you'll contribute nothing to a partnership while expecting full benefits doesn't end well, regardless of how you frame it ideologically. The remaining members drifted apart, some doubling down on their beliefs, others quietly recognizing they'd been feeding each other's worst impulses. 4 months after the divorce, Monica sent me a long email. It was surprisingly reflective, full of apologies, admissions of how she'd been manipulated, realizations about how the group had warped her thinking with simplistic ideology. She said she understood now, that she'd grown, that she wished she could undo everything. The email felt sincere. I believe she genuinely regrets her actions. I never responded, not out of cruelty, but because there's simply nothing left to say. That chapter of our lives is closed. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. People often ask if I moved too fast, if I should have tried counseling first. My answer is always the same. Monica ended our marriage the moment she declared she wouldn't fulfill her responsibilities while living off my income. I just made it official. Marriage is a partnership, mutual contribution, respect, and effort. She decided unilaterally that she owed me none of those things. I've learned that some people only value what they have when they realize no one else will tolerate them. I've learned that empowerment without responsibility is just selfishness with better branding. Most importantly, I've learned my own worth, and that I'd rather be alone than with someone who sees me as nothing more than a source of financial support. I'm at peace with how things ended. I don't hate Monica. I don't even think about her much anymore. And that, I've realized, is the most final ending of all. I don't regret my decision for a second. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.